Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, thank you to my colleague, Councilman Greenlee, for all of his work in getting us to this point. And I even want to thank the pharmaceutical industry for finally waking up, because maybe they haven't noticed that we have a crisis here in the city of Philadelphia. So if this is what it took to get them to wake up, pay attention, and do something about it, then okay. It's about time. To my dismay, the conversation around this legislation has become about profits over people, plain and simple. But this bill not only exposes an industry that needs to be scrutinized, it tells me about our priorities. Passage of this bill, in my opinion, should have been simple. Just last week, we said we won't put profits over people. Well, when we look at the multi-billion-dollar, with a B, pharma industry, and then we look at what's happening with drug addiction in the city of Philadelphia, the only conclusion to be reached is that there is a placement of big business far above the interests and needs of our most vulnerable communities. This bill is simple. It will require that sales representatives register themselves so that we can have some sense of how many people are working in this field and in contact with clinicians. What's wrong with that? Why don't we want to know if we have 50 people or 5,000 or somewhere in between that are lobbying our healthcare professionals with drugs? It requires them to stop giving out free samples. The pharma industry wants this restricted just to opioids, but we know, and they know too, that there are many other highly addictive drugs that are not classified as opioids. Councilman Greenlee referenced that just a moment ago. They're hitting the market right now. They're going into doctors' and patients' hands as we speak. And no more gifts. How hard is that? Do you really need another mug, a pen, a notepad? Can we not buy our own lunches? It should be simple. Now, one of the misnomers circulating is that this bill was on a fast track, and nothing could be further from the truth. This bill was introduced October 11th, scheduled for its first hearing on November 13th, rescheduled to November 30th to work with the pharmaceutical industry at their request. But during this time, we heard absolutely nothing from the industry except for pleas to cancel the hearing altogether or to move it to January. Our response over and over and over again was, give us your amendments, give us something that we can work with, and let's start talking about how we can make this bill better if that's what you truly want to do. Give us something to begin a serious conversation about how we can begin to effectively address this public health crisis. On November 30th, we receive amendments written by the pharmaceutical industry, which would essentially gut the bill. Completely unacceptable. But my question to the industry is, where have you been? Aren't we that great city of eds and meds? And if we are, shame on us for the health disparities that exist, our high poverty rate, our low rate of attendance at these fabulous educational institutions. Shame on us for this tale of two cities and how so easily vulnerable communities are always left behind. And shame on those within this administration, whomever they may be, who try to work against their own bill and paint our health commissioner as someone who was going rogue, all because he was working with us to try to do something about this crisis that we have in Philadelphia. There's been a lack of sincerity on the pharmaceutical industry's interest in addressing this problem. We know that what it is. And it's my opinion, this is my opinion, is that there is no money to be made in the cure, but plenty to be made in the continuance of the addiction. We take hard votes every time we come into this chamber. Sometimes we vote, sometimes we abstain, but coming into this chamber and recognizing that the bill will be held, I am prepared to do as my conscience dictates, and I believe that this is the right thing to do, to support this bill unamended and as presented. And when the pharmaceutical industry is truly ready to put some skin in the game, we'll be there to talk further, because we know that this is not the end of the conversation. No one ever said that this bill was going to fix the crisis. No one ever said that this was the end-all for this situation. We already have in place these sorts of regulations in one way or another by the University of Pennsylvania, Jefferson, and Temple University. All support the bill and say it would be easy to implement. So we want to work with the pharmaceutical industry if they're truly interested in working, but this bill is going to move one way or another, up or down vote. This is going to go forward. And so we look forward to seeing if folks really are interested in making this better, trying to find some compromise and really helping people, because that's really what all of this is about. No one thinks that we're going to solve this epidemic, but this bill can help, and we certainly need all the help that we can get. So why wouldn't we want to help? So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.